Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another LinkedIn Live. It's Easter Monday, so happy Easter Monday, everybody. I hope you're all enjoying it, spending time with your family, hunting eggs and bunnies and whatnot, and just enjoying the whole holiday thing. Last Monday, I thought I don't have anybody for today because of Easter holidays, and look at this, we have a guest, Andy. So just quickly, if you're watching this live, if you're watching this on a replay, and if you want to watch past LinkedIn Live interviews, you can go easily to my YouTube channel, subscribe to that, hint, hint, and then you can watch them there instead of scrolling through my newsfeed. But enough of my random rambling. Andy, welcome to the show. It's a huge pleasure to have you here. And I'm really grateful that you took time out of the holiday day to join us. So could you please, can we start with you introducing yourself and then we'll go from there?
Thank you, Miha. I am Andi Cook. I am the CEO of Maximize Your Job Search. It is a job search strategy firm that helps everybody from college graduates to executives. And we have the honor of doing resume writing and LinkedIn profiles and interview strategies, as well as helping people as a kind of a business consultant and best practices of attracting and retaining a solid workforce.
Okay, so you help both people who are looking to find good job opportunities and companies to find good people that can work for them.
Absolutely. I tend to be a voice of the job seeker because a lot of times when we've been employed at a company for a long time or running a company for a long time, we may be a little bit out of touch of kind of the mood of the job seekers and what they're looking for in a company or an organization and what you can offer that may set you apart from the competition and attract that top talent.
Okay, yeah, I mean, especially in certain high demanding industries like IT and stuff like that, they really like, I mean, I have a few clients and also quite a few friends who are entrepreneurs in the IT industry, and the struggles that they are sharing with me and what they have to offer, and how hard it is to get good coders and programmers and IT experts and so on. You really have to go above and beyond, and it's very hard to compete with the likes of Google and Facebook and all the big corporations out there who have all the money that they need to attract the best people in those industries.
Absolutely.
But the topic of our conversation today, I mean, I know that you and we can talk in through a lot of different topics related to HR, but we decided, because I didn't had yet anybody talk about remote work, and throughout this whole Corona thingy, it became a much bigger thing that it was. And even after this whole pandemic is behind us, most people agree that we won't go back to old ways, even if it will be possible. But, well, of course, if you are a worker in a manufacturing company, that's a different thing. But for a lot of office jobs and stuff like that, we will keep certain level of remoteness, and that can be quite a challenge. One thing is to have your team sitting in the offices nearby. A whole nother thing is having a remote team all around the world connecting and talking through Slacks and other chat tools and so on. So how would you start this conversation? What are the first few things that come to your mind to share with our audience?
Absolutely. I think part of it goes back to what we were just talking about with attracting the right people. And I pulled some statistics because I'm known as kind of this data nerd. I like data-driven decision making about what is best for business. And when you're looking at 75% of workers who are remote report that they have fewer distractions, 86% report reduced stress in work. And the biggest concern that they have is unplugging at the end of the day. So if you have 40% of people who feel that if remote work was an option for them, that would be the greatest benefit a company could offer them, then that's a huge kind of thing to leverage, especially when only about half of companies are offering remote as an option. So even though we are trending that way, and I always go back to Blockbuster as my example, that if you do not change with times, you will become Blockbuster. Blockbuster should have been Netflix. They should have been leading the way with digital media, and they missed the boat, and it cost them their entire enterprise. If we do not stay on the forefront of attracting top talent, such as with IT executives, I was a technology-focused recruiter, and about 98% of what I recruited on was software development. The very first question I was asked most of the time is there remote work available? Even hybrid remote work seems to be a really strong attraction for remote workers. They're taking back their time. I also read a statistic that said that workers spend an average of 11 to 15 days total per year. So if you add up all of their travel time, it equals 11 to 15 days. You are giving them almost 2 weeks of their life back by allowing them even a partial remote schedule. And so that becomes a really big attraction. And we have to figure out, why are we so opposed to that?
Well, Andy, when you did the digging into the numbers, did you perhaps saw any differences between different generations? I didn't do any digging. I'll be honest. I didn't do any digging, but talking to a lot of my clients who have a lot of employees, and granted, those are people with families. They're not that happy most often with working from home because of the craziness of kids being there and wife and husband and so on, and that they find it hard to create that environment that is free from distraction. So I would generally be interested to know if those numbers vary from generation to generation, and could it be that the generation with younger children could be less inclined toward remote work, or is there no difference throughout the generation?
So far, the numbers are pretty consistent with the generations. Of course, our millennial workforce, who is so collaborative over technology, and they have that exposure from the time that they are in really grade school. They're learning to collaborate over computers, whether that's interviewing NASA in a classroom. I was a teacher, so we used collaborative technology all of the time. And so I think that's part of that Gen Z millennial workforce. But at the same time, people with young families often want a hybrid option, in my experience in working with job seekers. So while they really want the opportunity to be able to go into an office, at the same time, they love the option of being able to not have to rush kids off to daycare, or if they have an in-home sitter, or being able to collaborate at home. And there's a lot of different creative solutions, especially if you have both parties in the couple that are working from home. We just see that as just kind of a family first mindset that has really shifted more along since COVID, that we did not always have before, where people are like, no, I could not work at home. Now people have kind of figured out, you know what, this gives me a lot of freedom and flexibility.
Okay, interesting. Well, I completely understand. I mean, I've been working from home for the last couple of years, and if you organize yourself well and so on, I find it really well. Of course, there were challenges, and I had to create this little crazy routine. Well, at least my first lady thinks that I'm crazy, where before I go into my office, I change clothes and stuff. And I mean, it's just a different t-shirt. It's not like that I put a tie on or anything like that. But, like, oh, now I'm at work, and everybody can know that I'm at work. And then when I go outside of the office, I go back into home clothes and stuff like that, just to have that shift in mentality, and I don't bring fun stuff into my office. I don't bring work stuff outside of my office, so that
Absolutely.
I create that separation. But
I have
yeah,
to do the same.
yeah. Andy, so I like how you said in the beginning that you are, the voice of the workforce. And my audience is mostly fellow entrepreneurs, so
Right.
CEOs, owners, and uh, leaders in bigger corporations. So, as a advocate and the voice of the workforce, and with this huge shift happening, what what are some of your best tips, tricks, advices, whatever we want to call that, that you would love to share with the audience in regards to how they should approach the whole remote work and make it more successful for everybody involved?
Absolutely. Well, thanks for that question. And I'm glad to be able to speak on this because I think what we're hearing is not just a desire to work within the confines of their space, but the ability to not only control their life and work around life instead of trying to fit life around work all the time. So I think that's part of it. But I think there's a whole different component that people are saying, I would like autonomy in my job. And one of the biggest questions I get when working with business owners about a remote workforce is how will I manage them? There's a shift in mentality from managing tasks to managing results. So, do you care whether or not somebody is working 40 hours a week at 70% or 20 hours a week at 100%? Like, what is the ultimate goal? Here's your task for the week, or here's your goal for the week that you have to meet, and how you do that is up to you. Just let me know how I can best support you in that. And I think when you have that mindset shift of I'm managing results, not day-to-day tasks, that micromanagement philosophy doesn't work, especially with our millennial workforce. And then we have to empower people to be successful and give them the tools and resources and to do the job that we've asked them to do.
Andy, I think you just hit the biggest nail on the head by mentioning this, and I think this is, at least I'm hearing this as the absolutely biggest struggle of fellow entrepreneurs. When people came to work, well, there's a little bit of, okay, I can see what they're doing, and they clock in, they clock out. You can maintain a certain level of control over that. With people being remote, well, I'm sure there are tools that are probably not the cheapest, where you can probably see everything, what they're doing, how they're doing. But even if you want to install all of that, probably then you need a whole team of people to go through all that footage and data. So you need to start learning to let go a little bit of that control. And now they have this crazy problem because they were used to saying, okay, you will clock in 40 hours per week. You get payment that is so and so many US dollars or euros or British pounds or whatever per hour. This is your paycheck. And now it's, of course, way smarter to say, well, I just want shit to get done. And
Right.
I want to start putting those systems in place. But how do I do that? How do I, if I have a copywriter on my team and I was used to that copywriter working 40 hours a week and getting the weekly paycheck, well, how do I now go from hourly to you get what per what? So, do you have any advice on how they can start developing that mindset and how they can maybe go towards that outcome, paying based on the stuff get done?
Sure. So I think Stephen Covey in his 7 Habits of Highly Successful People talks about begin with the end in mind. So if we start writing our job descriptions towards goals instead of day-to-day tasks, then it begins to shift that mindset. So am I hiring you to run reports every week? Or am I hiring you to provide me data insight that will help me make data driven decisions in my business that equal profitability? What is the goal of the task, not what is the breakdown of the task? And I think when training, we have to think on breakdown. When managing, we have to think on results. And so when you start to look at the task, if you're unhappy with the performance of an employee, then you have to decide, what is it that I'm wanting to get that I'm not currently getting, and how do I best communicate that? And when you actually empower people to be responsible for the end results, then you get to go to them and say, okay, this was the result we expected, and it's not happening. What do you need from me in order to be more successful so that we can reach this outcome? And let them tell you, is it a tool? Is it a resource? Is it training? Do we need to adjust the expectations here, or are they not capable of it? I think you have to make those decisions, but it's shifting your mindset from, I'm hiring somebody to copy paper. What are you needing them to do? Why does this need to be done? And then if you can kind of create a different way to do that, that will save you money. On average, companies are saving $11,000 per year for having remote workers. So is it worth it to you to kind of distribute that savings and say, okay, I'm going to build a highly successful, high-performing team by helping them create buy-in into our overall vision? We're looking for $1 million this quarter. Your responsibility of that is $250,000. Start allocating out and distributing the overall responsibility and accountability for your end goals.
Okay, but does that mean that we need, let's say, a bit more senior people versus very junior people, where we need to guide them more task by task, step by step, process to process? So should we then shift to more senior people that have more of those leadership personality traits, so that we can say, oh, we want this needs to happen by the end of the week, and they don't need so much hand holding throughout the process? How do we approach that part?
Sure. One of my most successful employees is a high school senior. She works 100% remote for me. And I have, we use Microsoft Planner. It's similar to Trello, only it's included in the Microsoft suite. And there are two ways that I manage her. One, Microsoft also has a tool called Delve, and Delve shows me every file that she has accessed in our system. And then on Microsoft Planner, I created these swim lanes. So all of her tasks are in one swim lane. When she finishes it, she checks it off and she moves it to the next column. If the column is not moved, then she's responsible to come to me and say, I wasn't able to complete this, here's why. So she's very much empowered to go in at her time, because her job is to be a student. She works for me part-time. So I was able to hire somebody who is 18 years old and then be successful remotely and fully empowered to do their job in their own way and manage the outcome by just monitoring. And it is a combination of, here are the tasks that need to be done. I'm just not standing over her going, okay, did you get this done? Did you do this? Are you going to get this done? Here's what I need from you. She knows to come in, log in, and my job as a leader is to make sure that her work is in her queue. And then she comes in, gets it done, and she logs back out, sends her time and said, it took me this many hours, and I pay her for that. And so I think it's just shifting that mindset.
Okay. Well, one other thing that comes to my mind is, what if teamwork is needed? So yes, if one person can fully go in, do the tasks, and they go out. Somebody like, I don't know, a VA, an executive VA, or an assistant or something like that, where you give them, this needs to be done, and they can do it whenever they want. But how about when, I don't know, I'll give you an example. Let's say I have a marketing agency and we get a new client, and for that client we need graphic designers, copywriters, web designers, I don't know, all of that shebang, because we need to create everything from scratch. So I need a team of 3, 4, 5, 6 people collaborating on that. And sometimes they need to be there at the same time, because when one finishes, the other one can go forward, or they need feedback one from another or something like that. How can we approach that when we are dealing with teams?
Sure. One thing I would say is use Microsoft Teams that has a very collaborative board, a shared calendar, the ability to log in and have these group calls. I would ask you what changes in the room that you cannot still accomplish over Zoom. So if you are really looking at kind of this overarching theme of I'm going to need this result out of this meeting, then we should be able to accomplish that over a Zoom call, just having meeting protocols, just like we have when we're in person. There's a certain hierarchy, or there's a certain kind of protocol or conversation style. And I think very similar to, kind of what we're doing here, the ability to ask questions and collaborate over Zoom. I've done almost 3,000 Zoom calls in the last year, and seen a lot of collaboration and some great planning sessions. And I've been able to achieve the same results collaboratively online as I have in conference rooms of people. You just need to use some digital tools and technologies to accomplish that. But I think being able to foster that collaboration, we just have to get out of the mindset that I have to be able to reach across the table and shake your hand. We have to be able to create trust using eye contact and language, and then extend that to people. And then as workers, we have to make sure that we're focused and attentive and engaged in those online conversations.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And we got a comment. Craig says that, he likes your answer. Good leaders empower others. And of course, I absolutely agree that, we have to, as leaders, we have to be there to inspire or empower or whatever with our teams. But your last answer kind of like now floats into another thing that I wanted to ask you, and it was communication. So, how do we create that water? What's that called in the US when you have that water station and people gather around the water cooler? Yeah, and have a little bit of chit chat. Or, here in Europe, it's very common for people to in the morning have the coffee together before they start the work, and all of those things. And now you have Teams on Microsoft Teams and Slacks and Zooms and so on. So, but how do we create a little bit of not just office talk, but, also just that human to human interacting, communicating?
I think one thing we're seeing across the board is people are getting more interaction outside of work and not relying on those working relationships for their entire social connection. But at the same time, you are able to build these partnerships. You can have one-on-one meetings. You can even challenge your team to meet with, a person they haven't talked to in a while, or have this coffee talk. If I were leading a team in corporate America, I might send Starbucks, DoorDash, or Grubhub, or some type of delivery place, have Starbucks delivered to their house, or coffee delivered to their house, and say, hey, I want you guys to have a 15-minute chat session. Present tomorrow at the meeting on what you learned about each other. Here's some coffee on us, and just start really integrating that team together. Be very intentional about the efforts. Just like in a workforce, where that coffee talk around the cooler, it can create synergy, or it can create drama depending on the team environment that you've created. So I think that we're seeing a reduction in some of that workforce toxicity because people can disengage from it where they couldn't in the workforce. I think that's played into some of the success that we've seen in the remote workforce. But at the same time, I think there are ways to facilitate this engagement of people reaching out to others and intentionally building these relationships that say, not only do I respect you as a coworker, but I'm engaged with you and I've created buy-in in our relationship. One of the interesting statistics for me was that 76% of employees are staying longer at companies that give them remote options. So this team will actually have more opportunities to connect and work together because they're all kind of collaborative and in the same environment for a longer period of time, and there's less turnover.
Well, what you just said, at least in my head, now leads into the next question, and that will be my last one for this interview. I mean, I still have then two more that I always ask, but a last one on this topic. How do you see, from the employee perspective, that company culture either is or should be changing with this whole new situation? Because everything that we've talked so far is, in a way, part of that company culture. And let's say, if you can speak to entrepreneurs and leaders in corporations, how would you tell them to adopt or change company culture
Sure.
For better success with remote workers?
Absolutely. So I'm going to go back to that statistic of 75% of all departments will be remote by 2028. So one, I would say, be on the forefront of this trend that we know it's headed that way. So I would be a trendsetter, not trying to play catch up. You don't want to lose your top performers to another company that is offering remote. And we're seeing some of the trendsetters, your Googles and your HPs and your Facebooks that are going, hey, we're probably not going back to the office. So I think in that aspect, just be a trendsetter, be willing to think outside of the box, just like you want your team to think outside of the box. If we want innovators, we have to be innovative. And so let's foster that together and create these environments where people feel empowered, they feel accountable for the results. And there's two phrases I like to use when talking to leaders. It's supportive accountability and empowered autonomy. And I think that's kind of the culture that we have to create, this diverse, partnering junior team members with senior team members, letting them lead and train and creating buy-in on that front. And then building this very diverse, inclusive team that respects differences, respects collaboration, and then embraces there's a better way to do this. Because if we're navigating something new together, we have to be open to these little pivots and improvements along the way. So I think being open, being flexible, and being innovative would be the best way to go about that.
Absolutely. Well, Andi, this was such a lovely interview. I did ramble a little bit too much, honestly.
I always do.
Well, no, you were really, on point. But yeah, when I start talking, like, I am really too chatty sometimes. But it's so nice to have this conversation with you, and it's a topic that's really close to my heart, even though I'm not, in the HR stuff, but a big part of my leadership coachings and stuff, emotional intelligence and other things that I do with leaders, directly reflects to everything that you were talking about. So it's kind of like a blend between the two. So I really love this topic. But Andi, for all our viewers, who should reach out to you, and like, what's the best way? I mean, you are tagged on this interview on LinkedIn. That's one way, I guess. But what is the best way to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. I have a website called maximizeyourjobsearch.com that you can get in touch with me, but especially for business leaders, then reaching out to me on LinkedIn, starting a conversation, and maybe us collaborating together on how can you attract better talent, or what does that shift in mindset need to look like, then absolutely reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to support you in any way that I can.
Perfect. Well, Andi, my last question is always, because I am so chatty, and sometimes, then I forget to ask a question, or, is there anything that maybe I forgot to ask you, or I didn't give you enough time to explain, and it's, that last golden nugget of wisdom, or many of them, that you still want to, share with the audience, and so So here's the opportunity for that.
I think the best thing I could tell any CEO, any hiring manager is people are more reliable than you think. Many companies have started this remote workforce. They're also starting unlimited paid time off. And what we have found with that is people are only taking 2 to 3 weeks of time throughout the year when they're given this unlimited option. So it's not that people want more or are demanding more. We have to understand that people are just wanting the freedom to choose in their life. And I hope that we carry forward this tolerance for people's lives that we have created during COVID, that if a dog's barking like mine was just now, then we're tolerant of that. Or if there's a baby that cries, it's not the end of the world. It's not, earth shattering, that we are tolerant, that people have families and lives outside of us, and that we are now accepting of them and now entrusting people to be the greatest version of themselves and the most productive version of themselves. And what will happen in return is they will support your goals and they will go to the ends of the earth to help your company meet its long-term achievements, because you have created an environment, an atmosphere that they now have a vested interest in that, and they have skin in the game.
Perfect. Yes, really nicely said. I would say a really good, nice ending to this whole very valuable interview. I like how, you bring to the table that other side. You're not just there for leaders and owners and so on, but you are bridging those gaps between how one side sees it, how the other side sees it, and you can really talk to both sides because of that blend of the work that you do. So I really love that. And with that, Andy, I just want to thank you a lot for, again, taking the time, and especially today on Easter Monday, to talk to us, to share all this knowledge. And just I wish you absolutely all the best on your journey. And I really do hope that you and I will talk again quite soon.
Anytime. It has been my pleasure, Miha. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Take care. Bye bye. Okay, guys. So another Monday, another interview. Again, a topic that's so close to my heart. And Andy did an amazing, amazing job in sharing how you can see it from both ways. Because it's so important for us leaders, for us entrepreneurs, to actually look at the other side, to put ourselves in the other side shoes. Gone are the days when leadership was my way or highway. People have way more options with this whole remote thing. Now, even if you live in Eastern Europe, you can be an executive assistant, a VA to somebody in New York who will pay you a decent amount of money. So people have way more options, and the old ways of this is how you do things, and managing instead of leading are slowly going by, if they aren't already gone by. I think they already are. I really, really loved her perspective and everything that she brought to the table. Guys, make sure to check Andy out. Like I said, if you are watching this on LinkedIn, and she's tagged in this post. If you're watching this on YouTube, and if you are, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can get the notifications and all that hoopla. But then you can just go to LinkedIn, search her name and surname, and I think she will pop up the first. You're probably connected with me on LinkedIn, so you'll see that she is a friend with me. And you can start the conversation there and then take it to the next level. Next Monday, another great interview. So stay tuned, stay connected. I just hope everybody's safe, healthy. I hope you're all doing well wherever you are in the world, whatever the current craziness level is where you are. And I just wish everybody all the best. I hope, again, that you all enjoyed Easter Monday, if you celebrate that, and see you next Monday. Bye.